Oh, my computer's going crazy because I'm actually streaming right now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to, episode 33 of Verdicts of the Ancient Kings. I am your host, Crota, and you'd think after so long I'd do a better job of introing as opposed to just accidentally clicking on the wrong thing. Alongside me in the digital space once more is Nico. Nico, how are you doing today?
Good. It's been a busy Monday, but I'm excited to have a breakdown, get to talk about Hex, and then play some Hex after the show.
Yeah, like I feel like I just got to say this right off the bat. I really feel like the Frostring Arena 2.0 revamp was like a hidden under the table PvE expansion that I don't think a lot of people were really expecting. Like how immensely different Frostring Arena 2.0 is and how much like people are actually really enjoying it and really playing it.
Yeah, it's super popular. I think it's because it's super challenging that people are trying to figure out how to kind of crack the code. And then at the same time, it's the new cards and equipment that have been introduced have really diversified the type of decks you can play.
Yeah, when I was talking with the producers of Hex, they had said that this particular release was the largest release of equipment available outside of a Adventure Zone 1, I think, where that was like this giant, like, experimenting sandbox. This was like the greatest push, and there'd be hundreds of new decks and archetypes, and I was just like, hundreds, are you sure about that? But we've seen Fate Weave, and we've seen all these other things. Really, like we'll see what actually comes to the top, but that is a lot of fun. We will be talking about that, but as always, we're going to be jumping straight right into last week's puzzle. Now, last week's puzzle, we had playing mono wild. Summon 10 random wild troops with cost 10 by turn 5 using the card Wild Life. And you pretty much have to give your turn sequences and the cards you actually played. And, well, I think it was actually possible to do it by turn 4, so hats off to you if you actually got it by turn 4. But, Nico, as always, why don't you dive into this particular puzzle?
Sure. So the way I solved for it, but there were other solutions as well, was that you can play Earth Mother on turn 1. On turn 2, if you're playing Shoku, you can also utilize your charge power, attack with Earth Mother and Shoku. And then if you have 2 War Drums in your hand, they both become 1 cost at that point. So you'd play a War Drums and an Earth Mother on turn 2 after attacking, because it would reduce the cost of both War Drums to 1. And then on turn 3, you play the second War Drums before you attack, and you attack with all of your troops, which is 2 Earth Mothers at that point, and that's it. So with 2 War Drums in play, that's going to reduce the cost of Wild Favor. If you have 2 of those in your hand, from a 4 cost card to a 0 cost card, because both War Drums will trigger on the Wild's Favor. And then you play those 2 Wild Favors on the next turn, and your charge power, and you cast a Wild Life after attacking with 11 troops, because 2 War Drums will reduce its cost by 22. You'd have to top deck it, but you can play it for 11-11. So you'll get, or you can play it for 10-10, which was going to be 10 Walking Calamities for the resources on turn 4. And then you get attack with them on turn 5. So that was the solution I came up with. There are a few other interesting ones with Puck's Daydream, and a few other ways to combo off. Like some people, of course, they tried Spectral Acorn PvE combos, but I counted everyone that entered that got it right. So I think there was like 9 entrants, and I just rolled the winners.
All right.
And the winner is Aryan Win. I just sent you their names too. And then the runners up are Xylo and Slayer Stronghold. So thanks all for your participation. And I hope you had fun trying to figure this one out and seeing how you could get Wildlife's either cost down or just a ton of extra shards.
All right, so Arian, congrats to you, and why not continue to type in everyone else? So Xylo and what was that you said Slayer
Slayer Stronghold.
Stronghold?
Yeah, it's also in Discord if you have that up on the side.
All right, I do have it up. I'm just typing it in right now, and people are probably seeing me adjust all of this goodness on the stream. So
It
there you
looks
go.
amazing.
It looks amazing on the fly. You know what? I'm just amazed by technology. Like back in the day, like I guess back in the day when we were kids, I couldn't imagine that you'd actually be able to, I guess, kind of host your own TV show and podcast and do all of these crazy interaction. Like, could you imagine the CPU load on your 40 megahertz 486 type of thing? But no, we've come a long way, and now we're playing great digital card games. Once again, hats off. Thanks to everyone who submitted. I did send out the winners for last week. I think I sent out Convocation 2016 scratch codes, a GAX, and a 2016 Convocation scratch code. Haven't figured out what I want to give away next. I do have a scratch code for 20 Hex Convocation 2016 complete set, and that includes 4 of every item, or 4 of every single card and 1 of every single piece of equipment, including the sleeves.
But I'll take that. That's a Freaky Fungus?
Is that Freaky Fungus?
The Chronic Madness Freaky Fungus set?
I believe so. Yes.
Oh, that's juicy.
Yeah. So like that is a very, very juicy set right there. And if anyone is looking for it or can come up with an idea for a good puzzle to release, we'll think about what we're going to be doing, I guess, the next time. So
that reminds me, Corona, that I did get a puzzle submission from Joseph Rose. I'm forgetting his in-game name, but he sent me a puzzle submission that we could use. The solution may be too easy for us, but I'll run it by you to see if you like it.
All right. Well, if it is there, we'll bring it up next week. If you have good puzzle solutions, or puzzle ideas, puzzle solutions, if you have good puzzle ideas, definitely send them in. Obviously, you won't. I will give you a reward for creating a strong puzzle, and then you'll obviously be able to submit your name as well in order to try and win it. So definitely send emails once again to nicosharp@gmail.com if you do have puzzle ideas. And as always, we have a puzzle at the end of the show. All right, so going through the slides, this upcoming weekend is the first Cosmic Crown Showdown where Frostheart is legal, and I have absolutely no idea what to play. This is actually going to be my first Cosmic Crown Showdown. Nico somehow got lucky enough to make it in last time, being Plat 1. I was never so lucky. So I guess, Nico, what can you tell me in terms of what can I expect, how long it's going to go, and what are your predictions on the meta, and I guess my predictions on the meta as well?
Good question. So what is it? 128 people total. Probably 116 or so will show up to the queue. You'll get about half of those potentially dropping by round 2 or 3. The tournament will probably go about 7 hours, I think. I think it's usually like 7 rounds until top 8.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the meta, I'm not 100% sure, but my guess is that many players, because of the way that they like to play, especially the constructed players, will lean towards control style decks.
Mm-hmm.
But the caveat is that I think Redlings is still the deck that needs to be beat. So if you're in the CCS and you're testing, the deck you should be testing against, especially if you're playing mid-range or control, is can you still beat Redlings? Because Redlings is just so powerful. It can win on turn 3. It typically wins by turn 4. But you have to be prepared for that kind of aggression and Lasgar's Vengeance.
All right, I'll have to think about it. I don't know if I can stop a turn 3. What can I throw in? Some stinging ambushes in there, or main deck some stinging ambushes, something along those lines?
Turn 3 is pretty rare even for Redlings, but turn 4 is highly possible with Redlings. So yeah, you just got to be prepared for that. But I do think control is going to be well represented. There's new cards in Diamond and Sapphire that are pretty effective for both card draw and control.
Hmm.
So that additional card draw with control is going to be effective. There's even some potential for maybe seeing some new archetypes, like maybe Runic is popular, maybe Frostform. So it'll be interesting to see how the meta shapes up because there are a lot of new cards that people are still kind of experiencing and figuring out.
Yeah, like I remember playing on the host stream on the Frostheart launch stream and trying to play against the Runic deck against Corey, and Corey was just playing cards, and at some point my brain could not keep up with all of the things that he was doing with all of the Runic cards. There's like Runic cards in front of him. There's cards and actions in his crypt. Cards are getting bounced back into his hand. Cards that had Runic that weren't supposed to have Runic but somehow got Runic. And at some point, I was just like, okay, you do your thing. You play your solitaire, and I'll try to be on the receiving end because I can't predict what's going to be happening. And it feels like a really, really difficult deck to pilot. But at the same time, on the receiving end, you just don't know what is the most optimal play because you don't know when your opponent's going to draw a resource or purposely play a shard call out of nowhere or generate a resource somehow and do some crazy things as well.
Yeah, Runebind, when I was watching that part of the stream when you were playing against his deck, I'm like, whoa, that card's really good. So there are some cards that I haven't really been able to experience yet because I just haven't opened them in Limited, but that deck did look pretty effective at what it was doing, and it did look a little difficult to pilot against. But I'm imagining that at least the constructed end of the ladder has tested well against that kind of stuff where, like you or I, we'd probably still be playing Limited and not see all of that unfolding right now. But I think a lot of people are also kind of holding back their secret tech for the weekend.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of deck lists that people are not showing. No one wants to kind of tip their hand in terms of what's being played. It does look like Illuminate is going to be popular. Fate Weave is going to be in there as well, just because of the consistency that you can have. And Fate Weave in general as a mechanic, I think a lot of people, when they first saw Fate Weave, was like, oh, okay, that's kind of nice. I think that was my first reaction when I saw it as when I got to play it. But the more you play it in the client, the more you realize how consistent it makes your deck, how well it rounds things out, where you can kind of predict, short of getting milled in Limited. I don't know if mill will be popular in Constructed, but short of getting mill in Limited, you can kind of plan like even on turn 2, you can almost plan like your turn 4 and your turn 5 sometimes, just because like, okay, I have this many resources, I can Fate Weave this, I have this socket here, I have my champion power just in case, and I can do this by this turn. What's the best way I want to get to my final destination? So hats off to Hex for making Fate Weave a mechanic that really can only exist in the digital environment, and it's going to be a core mechanic as well moving forward, since we do have Fate Weave on some core commons.
And I wonder if Fate Weave influences people to play slightly different hate cards for it. Like there's that 2-drop constant from Blood that at the start of your turn it mills a card from each player's deck. Like that could really disrupt Fate Weave, where your opponent, instead of maybe putting a resource on top when they need it, might put a non-resource to try to get that resource after the non-resource is milled. Like it'll be interesting to see how Fate Weave as a mechanic is played around. But yeah, Fate Weave is super powerful, very consistent, very good in the new Frost Ring too, just to make sure that you have what you need. Like if you're playing a low resource count deck, but you have some ice shards, you can just make sure you're either hitting the shards you need, or if you have the shards you need, you're just getting the gas you need for the turn next.
Yeah, so we can talk about Fate Weave and all of those things in general, but let's I guess focus a little bit more and talk about Fate Weave and all of the new mechanics in Limited. I think we were pretty spot on in terms of predicting what the limited would look like. Diamond Blood obviously being that constant, Diamond Sapphire being the frost form, and all the things in between. What are your takes on limited?
I really like it. I think it's a very well crafted limited set. It just there's different things to do in every color. Like when I've been drafting, I generally can pick cards I want in the archetype I want, even though there are cards in the same color that are outside of the archetype. But I could just like ignore those and pick the ones that I need for the archetype. For example, I might be playing Diamond, but I might not be playing Frost Form Diamond. So I could go for like Constant Theme Diamond, or I could go for Illuminate Diamond.
Or Fate Weave Diamond.
There's just a lot of different ways to build the deck you want. And sometimes it's hard, especially in draft, to figure out like what your opponents are going for based on the cards you see, because you might not see the same things in pack 1 that you're seeing in pack 2, and that throws you off. I've had a little less experience in Evolution, but from what I've seen of Evolution, I'm a little hesitant to say the Evolution format for this block is as good, well, at least for set 7, because there's just so many very powerful uncommons. So if your opponent just gets very lucky and gets a lot of those uncommons that are in the same limited archetype, they'll just blow you out of the water. And it really doesn't matter. Like, in fact, I'm showing some of the more powerful ones on the screen here, the Twilight Eclipse, Iron Maw, and Frost Dusk, but it almost doesn't really matter. Like, if they just get that same archetype uncommon in multiple copies, they will just be able to outvalue you throughout, an Evo match.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the Iron Maw, and specifically, you can have this like socketable miner. You may have this battle target opposing Diamond, Ruby, or Sapphire troop. Generally, when you're naming 3 of the 5 shards that are out there, you're going to be able to get some value out of it. Hitting candles, hitting, there's just so many other targets. Iron Maw also being able to pair well with either a Diamond or a Ruby, being able to get Gladiator or that additional +2 defense, making it so that you can battle and trade a little bit more easily. And I have been on the receiving end of like some 0-win Evo pools where you're like, really, you got a Daybreak, a Nightfall, the Archon, and a Twilight Eclipse out by turn 4. Like, okay, I'm just gonna scoop, and I guess that's what. I guess, RNG being RNG, sometimes they'll be able to get all those cards and you won't see them all. And sometimes they'll only have 1 copy of each, and they'll all be on the table by turn 4 or turn 5. And there's not that much you can really do to stop it or handle it.
Yeah, just quick story about that, which is crazy. I was in a 0-win Evo game, so that my opponent obviously hasn't had a win either. And on turn 4, he plays Twilight Eclipse. He attacks. I chump block with a Thought Seeker, which is that 2/1 flyer. I think that's its name. That takes a card from the top. I pull off another Twilight Eclipse. So I play his Twilight Eclipse on my turn 4. And then on his turn 5, he plays a third Twilight Eclipse. Like, what? He says 0 wins. He has 3 of these in his deck? It's ridiculous. So obviously I didn't win.
Yeah, anytime you see multiple copies of those powerful uncommons, it is a bit disheartening. You gotta have some sort of removal if you want to get somewhere. I think I won a game with 1 health. He had a Twilight Eclipse, or I think he had multiple Nightfalls, and I had 1 Daybreak, and I ended up having to bounce one of his Nightfalls in order to gain a turn to finish milling him. It was that close of a game.
Yeah, I really like that mills back in the rotation too. Just being able to successfully mill people, and those games are always so tight because you're sacrificing some of your troops to get more of those mill cards in the deck. So it's always like it feels like a nail biter. Like you're cutting it close. Some of your mill is not consistent. Like you're giving them the option. So sometimes they're giving you that extra card draw that could either really help or just be another shard. So it's so close, and I really like the feel of this limited format in terms of how many turns it takes before you get a win, and the back and forth of it
Hmm.
that I didn't really experience as much in set 5 and 6.
Yeah, that's one final thing I wanted to touch on before we move on. Like, it feels like we haven't even scratched that much of the show today. In limited in general, in the last set, if you said, "Oh yeah, this champion's charge power costs 7 charges," I would say you are never going to hit 7 charges. Like, there's just no way that you will get to 7 charges. And I don't know why, but getting the 7 charges seems to be happening fairly consistently. The wild champion that gives +2/+2 to all of your troops, and like every time I go up against that type of wild deck, he seems to always be able to hit it. And I'm just like sitting here scratching my head, going, did the game just shift so much from having a lot of 1 to 2 drops to get early aggression on to actually things sticking on the board and making valuable plays? And I really think that has been the big shift this time around. I think last limited, we were looking at a lot of 3 cost cards, like, oh, these are the powerful 3 cost cards. And even in this screenshot that we have here, these are all the powerful 4 cost cards, and we seem to be getting to that later game again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even though Frost Tusk is like a 2 drop potentially, but most of the games I'm playing, like if you have a 4 charge champion, you're still getting off that charge power twice in a game typically. Like I'm always playing against Puff, and Puff always seems to notoriously be getting off 2 charges every time I play against them. So, but I will, just kind of pepper that with, there are still very aggressive decks and archetypes you can play that can get you a win on turn 4 or 5. So I would still, caution people to not go too aggressively. Make sure you still have a few early drops, because there are some decks that will blow you out of the water fairly early.
Yeah, I was gonna say you actually have Puff use his charge power twice on you. I'm usually dead, like, or 90% dead if when he uses the charge power once. But
Oh, don't worry, man. I prepare for Puff if I'm drafting. Like, I make sure if I'm not in the Puff archetype that I'm hating those cards and that I have some answers, because if I was just looking at some stats right before we started our show, like the last 100 3-0 drafts, 31 of those were Puff champion supported. So like more than 30% of the 3-0 winners are Puff players, and I always get beat by them almost consistently. So it's a very strong. The Merry Caravan archetype is very strong. Being able to revert a Frostform troop, or being able to revert somebody with like a one-shot ability like that Fate Weave Draw Sapphire card is all very effective. And then on top of that, you're getting a 4/4 flyer.
yeah, it like then there's the party fungi, and I think had forgotten, like, the spell song Sweeties. When you frost form something, the spell song Sweetie changes into the frost form.
Yeah, it does.
And I think that caught me off guard the first time, because I had the spell song Sweeties and I also had the party fungi. And then I was just like, oh, there's nothing I can really do, but I'm gonna lose momentum. So I purposely frost formed the 5-drop 3/5 flyer into the 3/1, and it turned into a 5/3 flyer on that turn, because it transformed. And then the troops on with the party fungi. So then I had this 5/3 flyer, and then I'm like, then I can revert it back with the butterfly, hit it with a 4/4. Now it's back to a 2/2, and my opponent just kind of like scooped afterwards. So we can talk about Puff the Rainbow, and my daughter loves Puff the Rainbow. Like, just cute art. She's like, "Oh, you're a rainbow?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm a rainbow." But yeah, I don't know. I think Puff the Rainbow is gonna give a lot of people nightmares as well.
Yeah, it's the scariest rainbow ever. Rainbow Puff.
Scarier than the Diablo 3 rainbows with the unicorns and the bears.
Yeah, those are kind of scary, but they're definitely scary.
All right, moving right along, we have Frost Ring Arena 2.0. I know we touched on this at the beginning of the show, just having some fun in the Frost Ring Arena, earning some new rewards, and I think I can count the number of perfect runs I've done on Frost Ring Arena on maybe on one hand right now. I think I have like 4. it is consistently difficult to get those perfect runs, and you have to pay attention now sometimes, which is a little bit of a shock for anyone who tried to run Frostring Arena and watch TV at the same time in the past.
Oh yeah, you have to pay attention all the time. I haven't been able to play since the hotfix patch, but over the weekend and actually going into the weekend, I guess the last hotfix kind of broke the game, so Arena has been crashing a lot on me. But hopefully the new hotfix fix that. I would say that like all the matches are way more difficult, and some of them are unwinnable if you're playing a certain type of deck. Like Field Medic has that ability to negate all non-combat damage. So if you're playing anything that's like burn based, outside of attacking with troops, you're in a lot of trouble. I mean, if you're playing Mill, maybe you can beat it, and there's other decks too, like that counter Mill, like Archon of Nulzon, and then you have a deck that counters constants, like Burly Botanist. So there's all these like interesting encounters that are going to completely like kind of throw you for a loop depending on the deck you're playing.
Yeah, I think I was trying to run an Azure Fate mill deck at first, and I wasn't getting it consistent enough, and until I started including some of the more chaos. Is it the 4-cost basic action that if this is in your deck, you mill your opponent 2 cards?
Yeah, that's a really popular one. Chaotic Murmurs.
Yeah, Chaotic Murmurs. What's funny is I still don't have enough spiraling ends, so I ended up supplementing them with the 2-drop 1/1 flyers that mill a card if they deal combat damage, or mill 5 if your opponent has 10 cards in their crypt.
Spawn of Utieg.
Yeah, and my opponent always has 10 cards because on turn 2, my opponent already has 8, and then I use my champion mill power, and then I start swinging for 5 immediately. So
oh yeah, that's a good combo. Yeah, I forgot about that triggering off a 10. For some reason, I thought it triggered off a 20, but I think that might be its bigger brother with the like 5-drop one that has flight and defensive.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger. You also could be thinking of the constant that says you need 20 in order to draw a card.
Yeah, Cult of the Nameless City.
Yeah, so I found that to be a good, I guess, cheaper alternative if you haven't been able to grind out the Frostring Arena. Mill has been pretty consistent for me, and all I can say is I'm glad I got in on the Dungeon Crawler backer rewards, because, those only getting one item drop from those bosses would make my heart sink just a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a super nice perk to have. I know it's probably not good to talk about it too much, but yeah, I'm happy I have that too. It helped me kind of get to what I was trying to build faster because you just get a few extra drops. But it sounds like a lot of people are even like doing a more cheeky method where they're just clearing tier 1 or clearing tier 1 and tier 2 to get the new drops, and they're getting a pretty nice loot just doing that, and then they're also avoiding most of the elite fights that way. So another tactic for some of you guys that might be newer or not as experienced or want to farm the loot a little bit quicker, you can just do tier 1 and tier 2 and still get a pretty good chunk of drops.
One thing I did notice, if you lose a match, you actually lose a little bit of gold.
Yeah, you get less gold, but they don't like physically take it away from you.
Like I went 1-0 I went 1-0 and I withdrawed and I got 100. I went 1-1 withdrawed and I got 50.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, because I think I went like 1-2 once and I withdrew and I had 60. So I don't know, like maybe it's just random.
Well, it could, in that case, it could be each different champion or each different opponent has a different gold value drop then.
Yeah, that's possible.
So maybe that's the case, as opposed to losing, they actually take away gold, because sometimes you just get a bad draw or you go up against an archetype that you're just not ready against. Here's the talk for those of you guys who don't know, there is a new dragon in Frostring Arena 2.0, and one of the prizes is an animated sleeve of the Matriarch of Flames and an animated alternate art version of that Matriarch of Flames, which I believe is right now only going for like 1700 plat in the auction house.
Well, that's not bad, but at the same time, you have to consider that those players are getting it for completely free.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super rare encounter, and you still have to win. But yeah, I mean that is amazing that you could play Frosting Arena for free and get a $1,700, I mean 1,700 plat card, and you know that's really great for any free to play player to chase.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an easy thing to get to, but if you're playing the right deck, you can just easily take them down if you do ever see them. I haven't seen Zakir. I've done maybe 15 or 16 runs. Most of them have gotten through to the fourth tier, not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So there could have been a run or two where I had to just drop or I lost that Zakir could have been hiding, and I missed out on my opportunity.
Wait, is there a little icon that tells you if Zakir was in your run, like there was?
You know, I don't know. Like maybe I've just been lucky where, you know, whenever I lose a run, I don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm hoping that they wouldn't be that torturous to us and show us that when we lose. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if that actually happens.
Yeah. So for anyone who's new to Hex and doesn't know, Urina's in the Frostring Arena 1.0, when you were playing against it, right when you started the Frostring Arena, all of your encounters were determined. So you could see all of the encounters were hidden on the Hex server side. And then if you, for some reason, didn't get to the very end and you stopped, you would actually see an icon showing you that Urina's was in your run and you just didn't get there. We don't have confirmation on whether or not there is an icon like that for Zakir, but we will be on the lookout for you. And if it shows up on the forums, well, I'm sure it will get redirected to us and we'll post it up so you can cringe in agony when you try to test the deck in Frostring Arena 2.0, not like it, quit, and see that icon that you've been chasing for weeks and weeks and weeks.
That sounds like something someone would never share, like just out of shame. Like it would probably haunt them at night. Like they don't want to like just admit that happened.
Yeah, I don't know, but we'll see. I think I would purposely share it just to say that it could happen, but you know, yeah, like a share in my torment type of thing. All right.
True.
Moving right along, we do have, or Nico does have, a deck built for you. This is called Ruin of the Ripplewood Control. It is running mono Sapphire, only 20 shards, but with Sapphire Ice, it does make it a little bit easier. Four Spectral Acorns, so that the deck does run a little bit smaller, and you're just able to get through everything really, really quickly. Could you talk right now? I think my daughter's calling me and my...
Yeah, I'll talk for a bit about this deck.
All right.
So, so Rune of Ripplewood Control, there's a few different things going on with this deck. One is we're playing a lot of low-cost troops with high value. The first thing that we're playing a lot of copies of is Mad Eredom Cultist. The Mad Eredom Cultist will take 3 cards from their deck and put it into our deck, and then we can potentially draw those cards and play them later in the game. The other thing that we're running that's super low cost is the Swiftpaw Trickster, which is the new Kismet Reserves pack card. It has 2 equipment pieces. One removes all thresholds from a card that we get from our opponent. The other one interrupts any target card that we want, and then it puts that card into our hand. It also is an unblockable 2/2, so it can get in some good value attacks. So Swiftbot Trickster is really what I would call the crux of the deck. He's like the all-star. Mad Eredom Cultist is also super powerful. We're also running Angel of Foresight, which is a relatively hard to obtain card. It was from Set 1 chests. They used to be pretty affordable, but I don't know like what their cost is bumped up to now that this deck is becoming more popular. Foamies from the community also shared a list very similar to this. Lady Devonshire is in the list as well to put our actions back into our deck. And then we're playing a bunch of value actions. Now, the Rune of Ripplewood is one of the most important actions in this deck because not only will it bounce our troops back into our hand, which we want it to do, but it'll also bounce our opponent's cards back into their hand too. It doesn't only hit troops, it hits any card with cost X. So sometimes we can just bounce all of the cards from the opponent's board into their hand. And then if we're bouncing our Swiftpaw Tricksters, then we have cards back in our hand that we can use to interrupt what the opponent will play on their turn. So it's a way to just continually steal things from your opponent's deck. That's why we're also playing cards like Crackling Tide. We're also playing Mimic to make more copies of our Swiftpaw Trickster. And then we're playing Captain's Parrots because Captain's Parrots have a one-shot ability that will copy the next action we play. Now, the champion that's not listed here is actually Puff. The cool thing about Puff, not only does it give you a 4/4 flyer, but it reverts. So if you put Puff onto your Captain's Parrot, the one-shot ability that copies an action will revert. So your next turn, you can copy another action. So this deck really gets out of control once you're at like 3 or 4 shards. And Angel of Foresight is probably just like the best card in slot for this deck. But I would even venture to say like you can probably find a better replacement card for Angel of Foresight if you can't afford it. Because this deck is really based around Swiftpaw Trickster, Mad Aerodam, and the Rune of Ripplewood with Bounce. So I hope you guys have an opportunity to play it. It's kind of affordable. I mean, a lot of the cards are farmable. The Kismet Reserve Pack cards are essentially farmable, even though it might be a little challenging to get the equipment pieces. But real fun deck to play. Really, really good in the arena because you can just counter anything the AI plays. But yeah, I would like to see what you guys think about this deck after listening to our episode if you had a chance to play it.
Do you think the Dream Eagle would be a good substitute in order to just fish for everything else?
So because this is a control deck, you might notice that it's playing Morphology with the glove equipment. Mm-hmm. That is like our biggest card draw source. In fact, it's our only real card draw source in the deck. I think Foamy's had Bounty of the Mingus in his deck over Mimic, which I don't disagree with as a choice, but he was also playing Morphology as well. He just prioritized more card draw over more removal. I consider Mimic a removal in this slot because I can pair it with Swiftpaw Trickster or Mad Aerodam. But I feel like Morphology's a better card in slot than Dream Eagle because it will get me continuous card draw most likely, and it'll take a threat off the table.
All right. Well, if for all of you guys who are looking to test other additional decks or want to be able to farm more, definitely take a look at the Ruin of the Ripplewood Control. It looks like a fun deck, has a lot to do, or can play with a lot. Ruin of Ripplewood, I believe, is a Frostring Arena 2.0 drop. Is that correct? Or is it a chest drop?
It's actually a chest drop, a set 7 chest drop. Its price has been very fluctuating lately. I ended up paying 300 something plat for each one of mine, and I bought a few extra thinking they might be a higher value, but I guess it's not super hard to obtain because they're selling pretty consistently on the auction house for about 300 plat each. But yeah, they're a set 7 chest drop, not chest roll, so you can just get them out of the chests. And based on the price, my guess is that it's rare or higher typically. So hopefully you guys get lucky on some chests, or you can buy them in the auction house fairly affordably.
All right, moving right along into some of the favorite new cards in Limited. I guess this slide was a little bit out of position. My apologies, but what are some of your favorite cards? I know Battle of Destiny is actually. I actually complained about this particular card just because it seems more like a Ruby card than it should be a wild card. Target troop you control deals damage equal to its attack to target opposing troop, and you get the Fate Weave on top of it. It's such a strong card, and all of the other previous wild cards like it was target troop you control battles target opposing troop. And
yeah, it's the strongest, it's the strongest wild removal ever printed. It doesn't matter what slot. I even would put this higher than Crocosaur, because it's a cheaper card to play and it doesn't have any downside to battling. You just kill the opposing troop. It is hands down one of the best cards in the set, especially for wild that tends to have kind of removal or, it's just a battle mechanic. It can be a double-edged sword, but this is just consistently great. In fact, so it's so good that I didn't even realize it when I first started playing the set. I kind of overlooked the card. I'm like, oh, it's another wild removal card. It's probably like stupid battle card, like survival of the fittest. I'm not even gonna like read its text.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started getting beat by. I'm like, what the hell? This card's amazing.
Yeah, I think the first time you realize it's a deals damage and not battles, your jaw just kind of drops a little. Like, oh, okay. I need to hate that card now. If I'm not playing wild, it's so good. Moving along, fire with fire. This is actually one of my, I guess, favorite cards. Just because you can summon a copy of target troop. It's any troop, not just your own, and then put it into play. It gets speed, and at the end of the turn, sacrifice this. I think I've taken the 6-drop 4/4 blood card that has a deploy, death cry, summon a zombie.
Oh, nice.
Right, like, and it gets all of the gems of that troop. Right, so the fire with fire, I had two of them in my hand. My opponent plays one on his turn. I make 2 copies. I have 2 4/4s. I swing with both. They die at the end of the turn. So because troops went to the crypt, at the end of my turn, I have 4 4/2s, and I dealt 8 damage because he didn't want to block with his.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I like, I'm a little reluctant to say this on our podcast because it's so powerful, but I will tell you guys how you can win Evo and draft games with this card. So it's all built around 3 cards. So fire with fire, the jacked hammer, and pile drive. You will win games with those 3 cards.
So okay.
So you have your 6/1 gladiator with crush, right?
Yeah.
You pile drive him pre-combat, and then you fire with fire him. You got a 10-5 crush.
10-5 crush. Yeah. Yeah, that seems very, very, very deadly. All right, Runic Chrysalis, revert and transform target troop you control into a merry butterfly. It is Puff the Rainbow's champion power, except Runic, and yeah, being able to have your 1/1 or a 0/3 all of a sudden turn into a 4/4 flyer to block on your opponent's turn. It's removal, and on top of that, it's Runic, so you can perhaps swing again. It does so much. I think I've even used Runic Chrysalis in a diamond, sapphire, semi-illuminate deck where the initiates of wax I would illuminate, so it would lose the one-shot ability. I would Chrysalis it, right? And then I would get it. I would revert. I'd get it back. Then I'd drop the 1/1 flyer that can revert another card. And I had so much reversion going on in the game that I think I had 4/2/2 Candlekin just off of 2 initiates and a whole bunch of Runic Chrysalis with Puff, with reversion and stuff like that.
That's pretty creative. I never even thought of trying something like that. Yeah, I think Runic Chrysalis is, and you like touched on it right away, is that it's almost more powerful sometimes defensively. You can just have that 4/4 blocker that comes out of nowhere for 2. I've been beat by playing this card too aggressively and trying to use it offensively, and then not having a blocker up the following turn. So I would say just look out for this card. Defensively, it might be more powerful than aggressively, but it's a lot of value for a 2-drop.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of good tricks here and a lot of good actions and things you have to just be aware of consistently. All right. Well, finally, moving right along, we got one new puzzle. It says win as early as possible with your favorite low non-resource card Fate Weave combo deck. What turn can you achieve a win? How consistent is it? And how does it work? So if you guys haven't or don't know, there is a style of deck out there right now that abuses the Fate Weave mechanic. Fate Weave, seeking fortune or seeking adventure. If you seek fortune, well, you move a resource to the top of your deck. Seek adventure, move a non-resource to the top of your deck. If 58 of your 60 card deck are resources, you can pretty much guarantee the next card you draw and call it with a 50-50 shot. So extremely, extremely powerful. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, this puzzle's a little tongue-in-cheek because I've been talking about Fate Weave a little bit as a mechanic lately. But I thought it would be fun to experiment, see what the community can come up with in terms of, if they're playing a 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 non-resource card deck, what is the best way to abuse running all 20 of these ices in your deck to pretty much guarantee that you'll Fate Weave for those combo pieces right away. Like one example, you guys can use this if you want, I don't care, is a Triumvirate. Like say you're playing Immortal and you just want to play the Triumvirate. So you get all of your ice and you just Fate Weave for all 3 pieces of Triumvirate and you get that into play. And it's probably not the best example, but it's an example of being able to find your combo pieces and put that combo together in a consistent fashion.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the math right now. If your entire deck is Fate Weave, resources, and 4 Chronic Madnesses, how fast can you win?
Ooh, interesting. Yeah, that's a good question. That would be really interesting. I mean, do you even need 4 Chronic Madnesses? I mean, I guess you could.
Well, like the reason
I
why
guess it minimizes the amount of non-ice cards you have to play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
New idea, just four Chronic Madnesses. And
yeah, 20 of the ices, and then another 36 blood shards, and then 4 Chronic Madness. There you go. There's your deck.
Well, you'd probably want to run Sapphire Shards over blood. Just saying.
Oh yeah, like if you're playing Nin or something. Yeah, true.
Well, no, if you're running.
I'm sorry. Why was I thinking Chronic Madness is a blood card? My bad. Yeah, Sapphire. All
right, just a little fix there. Well, we'll see how that works. I guess that is part. We've given you a solution. Figure it out and go ahead and send it into Nico. We'll figure out what, and we'll be giving away. I still probably have over 200 codes to scratch off and give away, from codes to equipment to storm coats and things like that. Anything else you want to add, Nico?
No, I think that's it. I mean, unless you want to send me half of those codes, I'll help you out with those.
You can scratch them and send them off to the winners. You want to do that?
Yeah, you can do that.
All right.
Or I'll just make some deals with Sharkmart. Okay. So
no, we like I don't know. It feels like with the new Frostring Arena, everyone's platinum reserves are dipping a little bit because they need to buy that last little bit for their deck in order to get it going, and that last little bit turns out to be about 4,000 plat after you finish your 6 different decks that you want to do.
Yep, I've blown a lot of my plat on silly things too, like Frost Arena cards. So anyway, I don't have any plat, but I'm more than happy to trade, even though I don't like using the auction house. So I'll find some way to get the plat I need to play more limited, because the limited in this set's super fun. So I think they did a good job. Kudos to Hex. I hope everyone else is enjoying the set. And we hopefully will catch you guys next week, or if not, the week after.
All right. Well, from everyone here at Cornerstone Guild and from me and Nico personally, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
See you next time.